Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 31st of March, comes to you from London. The last day of the quarter, and all eyes still on what's happening in the oil price. Of course, I analyse these markets in detail, all European energy markets, global energy markets for clients each day, and it's a fairly neutral day today. But of course, it's all about these critical levels, and I've got all my targets and my support levels, medium term and short term, and the trends all in my screen that have just been read off the charts. So looking at what's going on in markets more generally, we have the dollar index looking stronger, and basically it's just this flight to liquidity which we've talked about. If we look at the 60-minute chart, we are on the verge of activating this upside target another 4% higher, and we are above 100 on the dollar index. So that's just showing that dollar strength kicking through. A few people have asked me to comment about Bitcoin. By the way, in terms of individual stocks, and it's great that people are commenting on YouTube. In terms of individual stocks, there is a limit to how much I can cover people's individual stocks, and remembering that this is educational. There's nothing here that serves as a recommendation. It's just the observations that are going on the chart. So in terms of Bitcoin, we do have this new downside target on the daily chart, and on the 60-minute chart we've got a mixed picture. So that just is a reminder, what's your time horizon? And if you go to the resources and updater, go to the Earthslope Masterclass, do watch that very first one, what's your time horizon. This was for the London Stock Exchange last year. I do this every month for them. It's a technical analysis masterclass, and I do just think you do need to be aware of the training. And we do have our online training course. It's 12 hours. Professionals take that training course, and really most people do not have what they need in terms of the skills to be trading, and that's why we want people to do the technical analysis course. And we are doing a special offer on that, so do get in touch. You can always email us at ta@updater.co.uk and get in touch with us. Now, looking at the markets, it's still bearish below the cloud basically, and so we are seeing a bit of respite in the market, but the reality is these moves now, we're in a bear trend, and that means that we should expect to see moves to the downside. So downside target on the Nasdaq, this is on the future, but we're seeing here now these support levels. These are the Linton levels on Updater. You'll have these on TradingView or on Bloomberg as well. We can see these breaking, so that's quite key. We are seeing a little bit of relief rally in the markets today. Quite interestingly, Asia is still really suffering. India has been plummeting, and I did do a post on LinkedIn last night where we're looking at the rupee, the Indian bond market, and here, and we're just seeing the woes that India is experiencing are really quite strong, with its susceptibility to the Middle East. 21% of their imports are crude oil, so it's the biggest thing that they import, and that's obviously having a very big impact on the economy there. Australia similarly has a lot of imported refined products, and there's struggles going on there as well. So looking at gold, we are seeing now a little bit of a recovery that's showing up in the 60-minute chart. If I look at gold in the 60-minute chart, new upside target this morning. So we are seeing now this building. Looks like a sort of an ascending triangle. Again, if you've done the training course, you'll know about all these patterns. Looking at some of the techs, we had Meta recovering, and don't forget these. Not only have we seen these stocks being hit in the market, but we have also had the spectre of legislation coming in to control some of these companies, and that's having a big impact as well. So Meta does have downside targets, even though it had a relief yesterday. So we're seeing stocks like Tesla down 2% to the downside targets. So that's now that 350 level is going to be really critical. And Nvidia, we've talked about the 170 level. Downside targets there. If you're watching Nvidia on your Bloomberg, you'll have the targets and the Linton levels there on Bloomberg. I know lots of people are using the targets on Bloomberg now, so that's the key thing there as well. There was some speculation in the bond markets yesterday, which was quite interesting, that we are seeing potentially growth being hit, which is going to introduce demand destruction. So basically we're seeing growth numbers now being the worry rather than inflation. Now that was temporary. It doesn't change the charts. The charts, you have to remember, are in trends. The long-term trend for bonds is we are in a falling bond market after 40 years of rising bonds. The last few years we've been falling, new highs on the yield. So even though there's talk of, oh well, they might have to lower interest rates because of growth, we've still got these upside targets. You cannot ignore the upside targets. You look at the bond prices, they are breaking lower. Remember, the bonds and the yield are inverted. UK borrowing sitting at around 5% with upside targets. You cannot ignore the targets. They're there. German borrowing, what the UK would give its eye teeth for, sitting at 3%, and the Italian bond yield sitting at 4%, but there's upside targets everywhere you look. So we're seeing that head here on the German. Look at that, multiple train tracks just pointing up the hill, and you can't ignore that. And if you look at some of the others, Aussie, that's 5%, similar to the UK, upside targets there. India, which I mentioned just now, 7% borrowing cost going to 7.5%, and just spare a thought for Turkey, with their bond yield is sitting at 32%. And I mentioned that yesterday that Turkey had to sell a lot of gold off in order to raise liquidity. Now this is the Dow 30, and of course you can be looking at the Dow 30. These are the gold targets on your on TradingView. But if you wanted to go and look at the Dow 30, you could easily just click on these charts in TradingView, and it will put all the targets and trends on for you there as well, with all the Linton levels. They're all built into TradingView, so you can use them there if you wish. But UpData, of course, is the system that I use. And one of the things I love doing is actually looking at the trends. So this is a long-term, medium-term, and short-term trend, weekly, daily, and 60-minute, and then a score for each of those. And this is the weekly, the daily, and the 60-minute charts here. And we can make these tracker charts so that we follow what's going on with my clicks on the screen. And that's just a little tip there how you do this. And so it's very tempting to look at the best performer. So we look at the best performer yesterday. That was Salesforce and the Dow 30, but the trend is bearish, bearish, bearish. And we can see here we're below the cloud on the weekly, below on the daily, below on the 60-minute, and we've got a downside target. So what I really want to do is look for where the trends are positive. Now, there are only 3 stocks in the Dow 30 that are positive. So the first one is Merck. That was down 1.2% yesterday. But the key thing that matters to me is it's bullish on the weekly, bullish on the daily. It has pulled back on the 60-minute, but I do have upside targets. Chevron, obviously, is a strong performer. That target was given back at 160, and we're now above 210. So it just shows you how the target's been met. But we're bullish, bullish, bullish. Johnson & Johnson is another one that's bullish on all 3 time frames. Not so clear on the targets, but we can see here that that's emerged into short-term bullish in line with the trends, which does suggest this consolidation pattern may break. If we look at Verizon, so this is a score of 5 because the short-term trend is neutral. We're in the cloud there, but we have got a nice big upside target. So, that's the key thing, is how we use this. Walmart has been a very strong performer again. So you want to do this on your own stock list. You want to be in stocks that are bullish on all 3 time frames and not in stocks that are bearish on all 3 time frames, and watch the price targets. That's it for today. Have a great day. Happy charting. Watch that oil price for key levels. Until tomorrow, bye for now.